All right, so we're talking about the new tenant protections that the legislature passed. Basically, there are a lot of new tenants' rights in Washington's housing law and a couple of court decisions that also affect access to housing that we want people to know about. And the new landlord-tenant laws, we're going to talk about repayment plans, late fees, other stuff that's different, and really nobody really has, a lot of the people we interact with don't understand what's required for a repayment plan, when late fees are okay, when they're not okay. It's very confusing. So there's a lot of new rules. And because like you can't have too much chocolate, you can't talk about the ERPP enough. So we're going to talk about the eviction resolution pilot program, because again, it takes a while to kind of get it through your head and understand how it works. And it's really valuable, and we all need to know what it is. Just cause evictions is a new thing. Everybody needs to know about, because in the past, landlords could evict with a 20-day notice, didn't have to give a reason. Things happened really fast. Now we got 16 reasons that have to happen. And, last but not least, we're the first state in the nation to have right to counsel, which is huge. So late fees, missing late rent, that kind of thing. No late fees for missing or late rent from March 1st through December 31st, 2021. A lot of landlords are tacking late fees on to what they're saying people owe. Not okay. Another part of this, if you're moving, your old landlord cannot tell your new landlord about any missing rent from March 1st through December 31st, 2021. A new landlord also cannot use any missing rent from that period through December 31st as a reason to not rent to you. So the good part here is landlords who do any of these things can be sued for 2.5 times the monthly rent. Now, we're not going to do the lawsuit for you, but you can go to small claims court and do that. And we can help you do that. Repayment plans. Again, if we're dealing with that unpaid rent through December 31st, 2021, the landlord has to offer the tenant a repayment plan before starting the eviction process. They have to give 14 days to respond to that payment plan. The maximum amount any payments can be is 1/3 of the rent. That doesn't mean that's what the payments have to be. The payments have to be whatever is reasonable for the tenant. And the landlord must give at least 30 days before the first payment is due. If you agree to a repayment plan that's been offered, the repayment can come from any source. It doesn't have to be from employment. It can be from nonprofits, churches. It can be from rental assistance, wherever it can come from. They have to take it. You don't need to agree. This is really important because these things are coming with, as of November 1st, the 14-day notice to pay or vacate, which is scary, comes with the payment plan, needs to come also with an ERPP notice, but you do not have to agree to that payment plan. And that's where the ERPP comes in. The court is going to look at your circumstances, and you're going to go through the ERPP. You're going to have a chance to get it where you can afford it. And again, landlords who don't offer repayment plans can't evict tenants for non-payment. So a lot of people are receiving a 14-day notice to pay or vacate without a payment plan. That is not okay. So if that happens, contact us. So the ERPP, Eviction Resolution Pilot Program. It's a pilot program, but it's really there for a couple of years. It goes through 2023. You have to be given an opportunity to use the ERPP before you can be evicted. It's basically there to help people work out payment plans, work with rental assistance, avoid eviction. That's the whole thing. We don't want people to be evicted just because they owe rent because COVID happened. That's what this is all about. Oh, there we go. So ERPP, it's usually started with the ERPP notice, which I'll show you. That comes with, hopefully, the repayment plan offer. You have to respond to that notice. And again, that's a 14-day period of time. If you don't respond, they can start the eviction process. So that's a really crisis point right there. Don't ignore it. If you just ignore it, don't show up, the Center for Dialogue and Resolution, which participates in the ERPP, will issue a certificate which allows the landlord to start the eviction process. They have not been doing that, but they're beginning to do it. So it's really, really important to respond. That will stop that from happening. The landlord or the tenant can reach out to the ERPP when that notice shows up. The tenant can, excuse me, use the link, go to the website where the notice exists, print it out, reach out to the ERPP. It's a free service. It doesn't cost anybody anything. Okay. What did I do? Now I have to go backwards. Okay. Here we go. So here's what the ERPP notice looks like. It basically just has resources on it, identification for the tenant, for the landlord, okay. That's all you need to know, is just what it looks like, because you know, people don't know what they're looking at sometimes. So if repayment isn't an option, tenants or landlords can apply for rental assistance, obviously. Once a tenant has their rental assistance application accepted, they can't, technically they can now, but it will not happen. They're not going to be evicted for non-payment of rent. Thing to know about rental assistance right now, a couple of things. If we click on the rental assistance website, we get this little box that says, the rental assistance portal is closed. That's also scaring people. I know Valerie's not here because she's on vacation, well-deserved vacation right now. But if she were here, she would tell you that it's going to open soon. It's planned to open by February 1st. It'll probably be sooner than that. They're upgrading the software, so once it's open again, it's going to be a lot easier to apply. They have plenty of money. They are still processing applications that have been received. They're still, I think, back in August or September. So if anybody here knows better than that, the point is, it takes time. Everybody has to hang in there. So that's really important to know. Moving on, because I don't want to take a whole bunch of time with this, and I will give you guys the slides. But just cause is a big deal. Like I said, in the past, a landlord could evict a month-to-month tenant with 20 days notice. No reason, take you to court. If you don't show up, you're out. And since May 10th, now we have to have one of the 16 specific just causes in order to ask people to move. And again, this part, which is pretty cool, a landlord who removes a tenant without just cause can be sued by the tenant for all economic and non-economic damages, or 3 times the monthly rent plus attorney fees and court costs. So again, we don't do that for you, but it, I'm having trouble. Okay, but you can, that's a process you can do yourself, and it's really good to know that it's there, and it's good for landlords to know that it's there. These rules aren't that hard to follow. So just cause, again, I don't know if I have skipped a slide. Yeah, here we go. Non-payment of rent, right? We've talked about that. 14-day notice to pay or vacate. The repayment plan is required. Participation in the ERPP is required. And that means that the certificate has to be issued from the Center for Dialogue and Resolution. So that's what that's all about. That's the ERPP and the whole bit. And that's going to go on for quite a while. Breach of rental agreement. You must fix the problem within 10 days or the landlord can move forward. Waste or nuisance. Again, that's pretty bad stuff, you know, and you don't have a chance to fix it. You need to call us if you get a waste or nuisance notice. That's a 3-day notice. So this is bad stuff. If the landlord intends to move into your place, selling the single family residence, or if you have to demolish, substantially rehabilitate, or change in use. Again, if you get any of these notices, contact us. I mean, the sooner we know, because of right to counsel, sooner we know what's happening, what kind of notice you have, the more we can help you, and you won't hopefully end up having to be evicted. Conversion to condominiums, condemned, shared housing with landlord, transitional housing, failure to sign new rental agreement, lying on rental application, legitimate economic or business interest. Contact us immediately if you get something like that. Repeated lease violations. That's a 60-day notice to terminate after the 4th lease violation in 12 months. And the landlord can give you that notice even if you fix the previous notice. So it's a little complicated. Sex offender registration, sexual harassment. These are all pretty obvious, but rent increases. This is another big area because people are being priced out of the places they're living in. Rent increases were allowed to begin again on July 1st, but Washington law requires a 60-day notice before that can happen. That's not happening. Landlords are raising rent just because it's not against the law to raise the rent now. They're doing it just, okay, next month you're going to pay this much more. That's not okay. You need a 60-day notice. And again, after October 31st, evictions for non-payment of rent are allowed. This is happening. People are going to get behind on rent, and people need to know that if that happens and they do owe rent, ERPP is required, regardless of any of the protections that were in place because of the eviction moratorium. Contact us if you have any questions. And the big one, right to counsel. If you are under 200% of the federal poverty level, which is not actually that low, and pretty much anybody who is facing eviction is probably going to fall in there. If you're facing an eviction hearing, you have a right to be represented by the Housing Justice Project. So that means contact us. The sooner, the better. If for some reason you can't, you just found out you have a hearing, show up to that hearing. The way they put it here is meet us in court. Seriously, because we are there. Our paralegals are there, our attorneys are there. We can help you on the spot. If you don't show up, you're going to be evicted. If you do show up, you get an attorney. Simple. Great stuff. And again, Washington is the only state that has this. Okay, the new court decisions, moving through this quickly. Drug possession convictions, State v. Blake is huge, and that's really preoccupying everybody who's working in the criminal justice area. Driver license suspensions, another huge area for our population. So State v. Blake, recent Washington State Supreme Court decision, state's drug possession law is unconstitutional. So if you were convicted of drug possession on or before February 25th, 2021, you can get those convictions cleared or vacated, we call it. That means removed from your criminal record. You may also get a refund of the legal financial obligations you paid on your drug possession case. So in addition to other possible legal financial obligations that people can get taken care of, specifically ones that were that you paid for drug possession, you can get back. That applies to people who are incarcerated, who are doing serving time in the community, and people who are no longer incarcerated. So as you can imagine, there are a lot of people working on this because this affects an awful lot of people. There's an online application to go through Pierce County Department of Assigned Counsel to get your conviction removed. And there are a couple other ways to do that as well. The Way to Justice, Civil Survival, and Northwest Justice Project. So plenty of ways to go. Really worth doing if you've got that conviction on your record. And if your driver's license was suspended, you might be able to get it back. It was decided that Department of Licensing can no longer suspend driver's license just because you have non-criminal traffic tickets and haven't paid them, or you didn't appear for a hearing. So as of June 16th, 2021, eligible licenses were reinstated. If your license expired, you have to renew it before you can drive, but you won't be charged the $75 fee. If your license is reinstated, you still owe the fines, and Department of Licensing can still suspend your license for criminal traffic violations like a DUI or reckless driving. Okay, here we go. So help with all this stuff. Fill out our online intake. We've just gone to a new system where the online intake is better and faster, and we're going to be able to get back to you faster. So that is definitely the best way to get hold of us. You can also call us. You can also, and all this information is on our website. You can also send an email to hjp@tacomaprobono.org, but contact us. Washington Law Help, I want to just show you briefly. This is awesome. So for instance, if you want to look up more about the driver license issue or State v. Blake, that's going to be under Money and Debt. Click on More Issues. There's a lot more information about that. If you want more information about eviction, tenants' rights, all the stuff we talked about here, that's on Washington Law Help. And this includes not only just explanations and information, but forms, instructions, and information in other languages, which is extremely cool. So this is through, Northwest Justice Project. So use it. And I will stop sharing, and if anybody has any questions.
Great, thank you, Laurie. So one question I had, Laurie, is are we seeing the tsunami of evictions that we were worried about throughout the pandemic? Is that materializing at this point?
Not yet. We really don't know what's going to happen. We weren't seeing any non-payment evictions for a long time because the Center for Dialogue and Resolution was not issuing any certificates, but we're beginning to see those. It's happening. And we're seeing, of course, other types of just cause evictions. I think the way our staff attorney put it most recently is it's kind of we're kind of in a good place right now. We have the capacity to handle everything that's happening, but we're seeing on every docket, we're seeing 12 to 13 cases, which is a lot. Not a tsunami, we're handling it, but not yet. We're doing okay.
Thank you. So Jennifer had her hand up first and then Kat.
I just wanted to elaborate on that briefly because our housing team was discussing that yesterday at NJP. We're not seeing a tsunami per se, but we are seeing, as of December, we've started seeing large numbers of evictions. And in fact, Pierce County had significantly more evictions filed in December than any other county in the state, including King. We have like twice as many as King filed in December. So. Oh. It's happening.
Yeah. Yep. Thanks, Jennifer.
And just for context, that's even with a rental assistance program that was one of the best in the region, if not the country. So
in the country. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kat,
we knew this is kind of a center of the universe for evictions.
Yeah.
So I just had a quick question. And just a short story. I was working with a client that was served a 60-day notice for her rent to be raised. She was outside of her lease. She wanted to move because she was receiving a voucher. The landlord was raising her rent every 30 days with a 60-day notice. How many times can a landlord raise the rent? Is that legal to continue to raise the rent every month? That's my question.
I don't know the answer to that. Jennifer, do you know? Oh, she disappeared.
Not off the top of my head. Kathleen?
Yeah, Kathleen, you're next.
I would say no, because if they're on a month-to-month lease, they still would have to provide a 60-day notice of every rental increase. So at most, they could raise it every 60 days unless they were actually submitting a 60-day increase every month.
That's what they were doing.
Oh. Let me find out more
Yeah.
about.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a really good question.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll find out more.
Thank you.
So any other questions for Laurie? And or Jennifer, since we got Jennifer on the spot.
Yeah.
And Kathleen.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
So there is a lot of interest in your presentation, Laurie. So if you can start probably by, if you can, dropping it in the chat.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll
and
drop
then-
I'll drop the PowerPoint into the chat, and also a document that has all of our information handouts in it that we're giving out when we go to our pop-up events.
Yeah, that would be great.
All right.
And we'll work on highlighting this on the pchomeless.org website.
Great.